Mako. Thank you for your time today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So I'm over the moon thrilled that you're part of the university's faculty. We're so lucky to have you. So let's tell the people a little bit about your background and your experience and how that's going to impact the university.
Sure. So I have been teaching in women and gender studies, in justice studies, and in African American studies. My background, I have a PhD and a master's degree in justice studies. So I sort of think of myself as a social justice educator. I've been teaching the theories and principles of justice and feminism and critical race understandings of the world for over 15 years. So obviously I'm embedded in the academy, but I'm also very invested in what we lovingly now refer to as JEDI work: justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we add the justice component because obviously who doesn't want to be a JEDI warrior? But also the idea that diversity and inclusion and equity also requires a fundamental understanding of justice and what that means. So, yeah.
JEDI work. So I can get behind this label. And what do you think in terms of the coaching industry? And I'm very excited to be part of something that my hope is changes the coaching industry for the better. What do you think coaches who go through the university and are learning how to be a coach through a DEI lens, what do you think the impact that may have on the industry will be?
Well, I think that most importantly, at its sort of fundamental core, DEI work is about a recognition of both the individual work that has to happen with respect to social change and transformation, but also the recognition that individuals live inside of societies that have such a deep and profound impact on our lives and our ability to be free and to move with ease throughout the world. And so I think this platform, this incorporation of DEI work inside of life coaching is so innovative, and it's so critical to any sort of healing work around the self and the individual, which is fundamentally what life coaches are about. But without that larger justice framework, without that larger recognition that you can't heal the self, you can't provide support for individuals without recognizing how those individuals interact and are impacted by larger social forces, then the work that you're trying to do is not going to be as effective and impactful.
Yes. And so what do you see when you look at the coaching industry at large? Because I know you pay attention. What do you think coaches who come out of the university, how do you think this work will help them stand out?
Well, I think that what makes this university so different is that you are training life coaches to be support networks and support systems for their clients. But more importantly, they are then training clients to go out into the world and do larger, impactful social change that is not just about healing the self, because healing the self is important, right? We all want to be, what's the word I'm looking for? We all want to feel like we have a place in the world. We all want to feel like we show up as our best selves in everything that we do. But if we're also not asking the question of, okay, so I'm going to be my best, highest self, but for what, right? Like that is the question that JEDI work gets us to think about, is the for what and for whom, and how can my best self contribute to creating better communities, better societies, a better planet, right? So this life coaching model is about starting from the self, but to do much bigger, global, impactful work.
This gets me so excited to hear you talk about it in that way. Because for what, even at a basic level, when I'm teaching coaches how to have a profitable business,
Mm,
you help who solve what problem, so what? Like for what? For what result? And I think for far too long, the coaching industry has been very me focused, which I'm all about, self-care and taking care of yourself and all that. But this is a very we approach.
mhm,
Um, it's really moving from me to we, which is exciting to be a part of and to
mhm,
create. Um, so if I were to say, Mako, you can teach absolutely anything you want, what
mhm,
would be the top two topics that you would
mm,
love to teach for the university?
mm. Well, I think about just the language of social change and social transformation. I think sometimes it feels really big. It
Mhm.
feels really heavy. And, individuals feel like, how can I contribute to something that feels so grand? And I think just having a fundamental understanding of what is social change, what is transformation, and what is justice. Those just
Mhm.
key fundamental ideas that have such deep, deep meaning, have long historical meaning, theoretical meaning, but how you can then weave those ideas into your everyday life coaching practice. So it's
Mhm.
easy to tell someone, you need to do life coaching for social change. And someone's like, okay, I would love to do that, but I don't even know where to start, right? I don't even know what that means. And so I think having a course offering where people get to dive deep into the long and what I think is the profound philosophical understandings of what is change, what is transformation, what is justice, and then how can I incorporate those ideas into my life coaching practice.
Mm. You make me want to sign up for your classes. What do you think? Obviously, you're busy. Obviously, you have plenty of things you could be spending your time doing. What is it about this particular project that caused you to go, okay, I'll be in on that?
Well, I think, often in the sort of academic justice space, there's always this deep critique of individualism, right? That, as an American society, we are fundamentally organized around the individual. And I see that that desire towards individualism show up in life coaching. The whole entire industry is really geared towards preparing individuals to be their highest self,
Mhm.
but again, for what, right? So how do you move the industry or move the field away from this like hyper desire on the self to really thinking about the self as the starting point for
Mhm.
larger social transformation, right? And that to me comes from this ethic of radical self-care and radical self-love that is so deeply embedded in feminist discourse, Black women's organizing, right? There's such this long history of radical self-care and love, which always is about the intersection of the individual and the community. And so the life coaching industry, I just think needs to get on board with that intersection, right? That we start with the self, but the end goal is transforming our communities.
Ah, it's so good. It's so good. So, what do you think in terms of a coach going through this university and getting on board and saying like, "Yes, this is what I want to learn how to do and this is how I want to coach in the world." Um, what do you think 20 years from now the impact of these coaches being trained in this way could be?
Oh my God. I think about what social movement organizing historically has looked like. And there's often been this critique that there hasn't been enough emphasis on the care for self because people burn out, people get exhausted, people are traumatized by social transformation work because it's extremely traumatizing type of work, right? But the life coaching industry has such profound tools for people to develop a daily practice, develop these everyday rituals to care for themselves and to show up in community in the way that we need them to show up. So I've always been baffled as to why there hasn't been a deeper relationship or a deeper connection between the skills of what life coaching offers and the practical application and the need inside of social movement organizing. And to me, I see this as, this makes total sense. It's long overdue. But I also know that the life coaching industry needs to also get real about itself, right? Who is often missing? Who has not been at the table? How has the life coaching industry not affirmed the experiences of different bodies and different identities? And so I think the life coaching industry is going through its own reckoning of having to adjust to who has been left out of conversations and curriculum. And as it's going through that reckoning, they are bringing in more bodies and more voices who can then offer the tools to social change work that can just be profound, right? I am so hopeful to see what could happen in the next 10 years when we have people who have that radical self-care, radical self-love training going out and making our communities better places to live.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
What can students count on in your classes?
Well, I'm a very keeping it real instructor. So I think it's important for us to have what I like to call brave spaces. These are spaces where we establish a level of trust in why we are here. We are all here because we are committed to a journey and an experience collectively. But as a result, we also sign up for the kind of bumpy road that we're going to experience as we move throughout this journey. So there's going to be times where the material is like, I'm not feeling this. I don't understand this, but we are all here to move each other along and to support each other in the process. And so I think that it's important for people to have those realizations, have moments of reflection, and get uncomfortable. Sit in the discomfort, sit with how it's making you feel, because you can't transform unless you kind of go through those moments of crisis, if you will. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I so appreciate you. I'm delighted to have you on the squad, on the faculty team. And I can't wait for everybody to experience your brilliance inside class.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this journey with you. I'm so delighted. Thank you.